Whew. Hello, my name is Daniel Richardson, and this is the Teach Me slash You for, and we are revisiting, which is really fun to come back to some of the work that we've worked on, and now we're coming back with more insight on how to get better information. We're checking out food insecurity and GPA two-way tables. So we're coming back to some work that we've done and with new information. What I've done is I have put the information into this document here, and I'm going to walk through it, and I'm going to show you the work that I've done and explain how to do it. So this is the base table that we were given. We have GPAs less than 2.5, between 2.5 and 2.99, 3 to 3.49, 3 to 3.5 to 4. We also have food secure and food insecure. We needed to address really quickly that I have not gone and looked at my fellow students' videos, their presentations. I'm acknowledging that for this assignment, this is my own work, and I have not looked at other students' work before doing this presentation. I haven't been food insecure. It's been a long time since I was food insecure. There was a time in my life where my father didn't have a job and we were on food stamps. But even then, we weren't concerned about when our next meal was. We just didn't eat healthy. The sorts of foods that we were getting wasn't what you would hope for, but I was 13 at the time. So that's 13 years ago. So my college experience has not been food insecure. I have not had to skip meals. I haven't been eating unhealthy I've been eating unhealthy by choice. Whenever I'm eating unhealthy, that's because I decided I want to eat garbage. But I understand that there are a lot of students who are not able to afford both their education and their own place to live and food. So cutbacks have to be made. So I have been food insecure during my college experience for two reasons. I work full time. My wife works full time. We're very fortunate to be in a situation that enables us to not worry about our next meal. For DOK2, now this is a different question because referring back to in the DOK2, we asked you if you expect food insecurity to be associated with a lower GPA among first-year students. Has your opinion changed? My opinion has not changed. In the DOK2, I said that food security is associated with a lower GPA. This opinion hasn't changed, and I'll show why. Justify why the chi-square test of justify why this is a chi-square test of independence. This specifically is referring to why we're using chi-squares instead of another format. And this is because we're working with categories. We're comparing two different categories. So we're looking at food security on one categorical variable, and then we have GPA scores for the other one, and we're comparing those two. So when we're looking at GPA scores, the reason why these are categorical and not I cannot remember the name. Why they're categorical is because it is not on a sliding scale. we have positioned the GPA scores to be in 4 boxes. So your GPA score is either in this box of less than 2.5 or one of the other 3. So we've created categories out of numbers, because you can have a GPA score that's between these 2 numbers, and usually that wouldn't be categorical, but now it is. We've made these categories. So these are categories. Chi-squares are used to compare categorical variables. Using a level of significance of 0.05, determine if there's a relationship between food security and GPA. During your explanation, keep in mind that your audience has only some exposure to doing hypothesis tests. Be sure to explain the following steps in detail. State the null and alternative hypothesis. For our null hypothesis, which is the hypothesis that is the ground level, it's sort of what we work off of. It's the base assumption that we are going to either agree with. Well, we never accept it, but this is the base understanding that there is no relationship between food security and grade point average. So we are either setting out to disprove it or reject our alternative. So we either accept this alternative or we reject this alternative. So there is a relationship, and the alternative is there is a relationship between food security and grade point average. So there is a relationship or there isn't. And I believe that there is a relationship. State conditions and demonstrate how to verify the conditions without GeoGebra. So without using GeoGebra, I did some math first by hand. And you can see I got it wrong first because I missed. My initial number was, I thought that it, for the total of grade point average 2.5 to 2.9 was 24. So my original math was off. It's 124. And it's wrong here too. Is it wrong up here? I put it in, yeah. I put it in wrong. So the way these equations are solved is like this. You take this number, so you take 43, for example, and you divide it by 836. And then, so 43 divided by 836 is equal to 0.05. I went with rounding to the second decimal place, or the hundredths place. So that's 0.05 times the columns. No. Yes. Times the columns totals. So that's 0.05 times 677, and then also times independently the same equation times 1.159. So these are the equations for when you take 43 divided by 836 times 677 is 34.82. And then 43 divided by 836 times 159 is 8.18. That similar process was repeated with each of these equations. 124 divided by 836 times the totals, and so on. I never did state the conditions. That's on me. So state the conditions and demonstrate how the variable conditions without GeoGebra. So the conditions are met because we are told that this is a random sample. So that condition is met. And the expected counts are greater than or equal to 5. So none of these is less than 5. So the conditions are met, and we are verifying our conditions by finding the expected counts. Now we're going to go back and we're going to continue on, and we're going to go to demonstrate how to use GeoGebra. And we're going to verify our conditions, determine the test statistic, and determine the p-value. This is our GeoGebra. Now, I have GeoGebra bookmarked right over here. But when you come to GeoGebra, you're going to want to, there's going to be these 3 little dots, and mine is gone because I clicked on it and it's open now. But you're going to want to do probabilities. So when you open up that tab, you're going to have this, you're going to have distributions and statistics. You're going to go to statistics and go to chi-squared test. Now, I believe that the base is 3 by 3. For this situation, we are using 2 rows and 4 columns. So I have already put in all the information here. I got GPA. I've labeled them all nicely. You don't have to label them. In the demonstration given by one of the videos in the modules, they aren't labeled. So you don't, the labeling is mostly for this demonstration. But what we're interested in is inputting this information correctly. So we have 30, 91, 159, 361, 13, 33, 51, 62. We have the information put in, and we have all these different percentages. So we can have, what we really want is the expected count, because we're going to verify our conditions. And here we see that I got my math correct for the most part. I got 34.82 and so on. So we can just kind of go back to the work that I did, the work that's here. So we have our expected counts, and really nicely down here, we have our degrees of freedom, our test statistic, and our p-score, or p-value. So using these, I inputted them into one of the modules, had the very nice little applet that I was able to use. So I put the degrees of freedom and the test statistic into the applet, and we were able to get our p-score. So right over here, you can see very nicely that I have this little applet that I cropped out and I was able to get a screenshot into. We have our degrees of freedom, our chi-square test statistic, and our probability, which it calculates for us. So our probability is way down here, very small percentage. It's super small. It's hardly anything. You can barely see right there. It might not even show up on the video. So now that we have our p-value, we are able to make a decision based on the level of significance, because p is less than alpha, and our alpha was 0.05 as explained at the top. Question 4, level of significance 0.05. P is less than alpha. We reject H naught. There is sufficient evidence for H alternative. Right conclusion. We reject H naught. there is sufficient evidence that there is a relationship between food security and grade point average. Based on the results of this test, should there be an argument to colleges having more resources aiding in reducing food insecurity? Explain with examples of potential sources. So I'm just going to go with the sources that were given. I imagine that if colleges wanted to have some connection to food banks, I know that there is a lot of great education work going out about what should be given to food banks. I know that people are more and more learning that you don't give canned goods to food banks, that you should be donating money so they can buy fresh produce, because that's honestly so much better for people in need. Canned goods do not have the nutritional value as much as fresh produce and fresh goods do. So donating more and more money to food banks is really helpful. But don't stop giving canned goods. They can always use canned goods. It's always helpful. But specifically, the tab was CalFresh. And what it leads to is, how does CalFresh work and eligibility. We have CalFresh relationship prohibits. How to apply for CalFresh. Some videos about that organization. So that is one of the wonderful organizations that our college alone helps provide, but we can also probably just do a quick Google search about there's more CalFresh. So it looks like there's a couple other things, but right now we're going to go back to this. Food insecurity touches upon so many aspects of our lives. Knowing that when statistics is done correctly, it is a powerful tool that we all can and should access. We wanted you to leave our statistics course with the ability to use the methods and terminology for collecting, analyzing, interpreting, and presenting empirical data to tell the stories we are responsible for sharing. Thinking of your personal experience or experiences of different communities around food insecurity, what is another chi-square test of independence that you are interested in conducting? No need to have the data, but explain the variables you are using and how they should be categorized, for instance. So I looked at this, and something that's been more and more prevalent and upfront has been high school meal debt, or student meal debt specifically, because it's not just high school, but it is, my interest would be high school. I'm going to take a step back. Student meal debt is something that shouldn't exist. Straight up. I think it's awful. It's terrible. Whenever I have heard it, it makes my spine crawl. The fact that kids are required to go to school, but they aren't provided a meal. And then the school charges and has a debt for these kids. And it infuriates me that people think that this is appropriate to put children through. So what came to my mind was, what if we did the exact same study, except it was high school? I know this is a simple change, but it does provide an astounding insight into why public schools need better funding. This work has shown me that there's a greater connection between diet and effective learning than I had anticipated. Explain why we should be interested in your relationship and the implications the relationship could have. After a short Google search, I mean very short, I found this. California had the most children with school meal debt. 327,686 children are in student meal debt. Now think about this. That is 327,686 children who are probably underperforming in school because they aren't getting a decent meal. Children unable to afford a proper meal are defined as being food insecure. They lack reliable access to food. Many of those children who owe school meal debt are part of families who earn too much to be considered for free or reduced lunch, but also earn too little to afford regular school meals. That's by Melania Hansen. And I'm gonna just open this hyperlink. Oh, I already had it open. That's my bad. And this was in 2021, October 2021. Can't afford 1.54 million students can't afford school meals. The average meal debt per child is, well, $170.13 yearly. Oof. I believe that as much as a college student is unable to properly focus on their education, a high school and junior high student, even a middle schooler, is probably not able to focus on their education correctly or receive the information that is vital to their adulthood. They're not able to effectively learn if they aren't able to eat, if they aren't eating healthy, if they're stressed, if they're concerned about what their next meal is going to be, if they feel like they are less than the other students, if there's bullying. Not having a decent meal is awful. And I believe that public schools deserve more funding, and that this sort of study would be really important. And I'm sure that other people are actually doing this study. And I'm sure that this has been proven before and time again, but the sort of officials who are on boards of education, the people, they just don't care. And so I believe that this is the sort of thing that people should be voting on. This is the sort of thing that people should be educated about. And this is the sort of thing that communities should be more worried about than anything else, is the children. I believe that children deserve better than what we are giving them. So this is the end of my Teach Me/You. And thank you so much, professors, for the semester, and have a good summer.